What is going on, everybody? Xaenca here, bringing you another dose of toxic masculinity, or so they say. Before we begin, I just want to give a quick shout out to the SJW hate brigade that came to dislike the last video. If not for all of your views and dislikes, it probably would not have been pushed out to a lot more people on YouTube and get nearly as much attention as it did end up getting, so thank you all for that. And to the supporters, you know I got nothing but love for you guys. Links to the previous videos are in the description down below for those who happen to miss them. And if you do end up enjoying this video, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe for more content. So the reviews are in, ladies and gentlemen. The review embargoes are being lifted more and more day after day. And through these reviews, we're starting to get a better picture of what Captain Marvel is actually like. And on day one of the review embargo being lifted, I think it came out to like a 95%. That's what I recall it being. And according to Geeks and Gamers, SJWs on Twitter were starting to tweet it out, like, look how great it's doing. And then as soon as it dipped, they're like, well, Rotten Tomatoes doesn't matter anyway. So it's like, if that's true, that is hilarious. But as of the time of this recording, it's at an 83% with 186 reviews counted. Now, if for whatever reason you're new to Rotten Tomatoes, that 83% does not mean it's getting an average rating of 8.3. It's aggregating all of the reviews that are 3.5 and higher according to their blog post, but is easily debunked when you take a look at the actual reviews, because you'll see some of these reviews with like a 2 out of 4, which is basically like a 2.5 out of 5, which is not anywhere near what a 3.5 is according to that blog post, but it's still getting a certified fresh for that review. You know what I mean? Like, what the fuck is that? And that's how you end up with this tomatometer 83%, but all critics average rating 6.92 out of 10. And that's not even a passing grade. That's like getting a D+ in school. And then this top critics average rating 6.23 out of 10? That's a D-. This is a D- movie. Especially when you take into account that a lot of these critics are SJWs themselves. It is fascinating to me to see that they were not able to keep this at an average rating of 8 or 9 out of 10. I mean, if you read some of these reviews, they're trying their hardest to give this thing a positive score. Let's take a look at what a couple of them have to say. First, let's look at a few examples of what I meant when I said that it's aggregating scores less than the 3.5 that they claim it's doing in their blog. So this one from Ann Hornady from the Washington Post. As shaky and unfocused as Captain Marvel often seems, it manages to reach its destination with confidence. In the end, Larson sticks the landing, albeit with something more muted than absolute triumph. Original score 2 out of 4. But that's a 2.5 out of 5. How is it certified fresh? Explain that to me, Rotten Tomatoes. What about this one by Katie Walsh from Tribune News Services? A plucky and pleasing if predictable excursion that burns brightly if briefly. Original score 2.5 out of 4. Oh, that comes out to a 3.125 out of 5. That's not a 3.5. I don't know, there's funny business here. Because then you look at this guy, James Berardinelli, who says this plays like the kind of generic comic book movie that was in vogue 15 years ago. Original score 2.5 out of 4, and it's rotten, not certified fresh. Same with Mara Reinstein of Us Weekly. It succeeds more as an amusing fill-in-the-blanks Marvel backstory provider than a confident, standalone tale of a woman discovering her fierceness. Original score 2.5 out of 4, and it's rotten. And you'll see this kind of inconsistency throughout the entirety of the Captain Marvel reviews section of Rotten Tomatoes. You'll see plenty of 3 out of 5s, 2.5s out of 5s, and it's just like, how the hell is a 5 out of 10 certified fresh? Explain that shit to me. And that's why the Rotten Tomatoes tomato meter is complete and utter bullshit. So as an aggregator of the review scores themselves, it's fine. Rotten Tomatoes as a platform is fine if you just want to check like what the average rating that the critics are giving it is. Because like I said, if you go to the all critics, it's going to say that the average rating is 6.92 out of 10, which is a D+. And then top critics, which are the more credible critics, give it a 6.23 out of 10 and a tomato meter of 65%, which is closer to actuality than that 85% bullshit, let me tell you that much. And the only reason I'm pointing any of this out, because as we all know, Rotten Tomatoes has already lost all credibility as soon as they remove the wanna see percentage from the website. The reason I'm bringing it up is that Rotten Tomatoes is now officially their platform. It belongs to them now. I guess it always kind of did, but my point is, these are your people, SJWs, and they're not even managing to keep this thing afloat. Holy shit. One of the funnier reviews I found was by this guy, Radhean Simon Pillai of Toronto Now. Brie Larson is fine, but Captain Marvel sucks. The first film in the Marvel Cinematic Universe with a female out in front isn't enjoyable, but it has nothing to do with the film's politics or its terrific cast. Ooh. Damn, Brie Larson's got a fan here. The Marvel Cinematic Universe's first female-led title, Captain Marvel, has become a target in an online culture war. Internet trolls, or as my colleague Norman Wilner so precisely labeled them, man-babies, flooded websites with negative audience reviews, taking issue with the feminist politics waved around by both the movie and its star Brie Larson. FYI, SJWs are under this impression that man-baby is an effective insult or some shit. I guess that's as good as you can come up with when you live in safe spaces. What's next? You're gonna call us nincompoops or doo-doo heads? Come on. The stakes being what they are, it's tempting to spin an overwhelmingly positive take on Captain Marvel just to shove it in those man-babies' faces. But while I find Larson's politics agreeable, I can't say Captain Marvel is enjoyable. Hey, I give credit where credit is due, at least you have a shred of integrity. Screw everyone for putting such unfair stakes on factory issue MCU fare anyway. Few Marvel movies with their CGI pew pew boom and predictably cheeky gags can handle issues bigger than where did I place that last Infinity Stone? Marvel is partly to blame for this situation. A decade in with 20 titles under its belt and only now do they put a female out in front. Surely you would expect a company to make movies that target their main demographics, right? The ones that read the comic books growing up, which were mostly males. And the only benchmark in the vicinity of putting a female out in front was Elektra, and that did not do well, so as a business, would you take that risk? I mean, people seem to forget that these movies cost hundreds of millions of dollars to make. Now, with that kind of money at stake, do you make another Iron Man or another Captain America that's guaranteed to make money? Or take a gamble on putting a female superhero out in front to which none in the comics are standout characters to do that with, and you have no data to support why you would do it? Could you explain to your shareholders why you would choose to do something like that? I don't think so. Captain Marvel makes an obvious attempt to rewrite that history, going back in time to the mid-90s and retroactively positioning Larson's Carol Danvers as the original Avenger. I know. Captain America was introduced as the first Avenger and he's Second World War era, but Carol met Nick Fury first, and nobody likes retcons. Why are you doing this? People hate when you tell them something for nearly a decade, especially in this case, and then all of a sudden go like, well, he's not the first Avenger, she is. It's like, well, screw you too then. Samuel L. Jackson, de-aged by the kind of computer wizardry that will write humans out of the future, plays the young Fury. He shows up on the scene when Carol crash lands from outer space, wielding photon blasters for hands and a complicated-ass backstory. Essentially, Carol is a superpowered space guardian named Veers who has amnesia and doesn't actually remember that she's Carol Danvers, a former Earthling and Top Gun-era fighter pilot. What fleeting memories she does have from her life as a human all have to do with being dismissed for her gender. That's just one way Captain Marvel hangs Carol's emotional arc on her sex. Instead of treating feminism as a structuring ideology to jump off from, like Wonder Woman so winningly did, Captain Marvel can't seem to see beyond the idea that Carol is a woman. It effectively makes feminism a target, a goal to be achieved in ways that feel more self-congratulatory than progressive. Larson and Jackson and a damn fine supporting cast have very little opportunity to work up an engaging chemistry beyond short emotional bursts and comic relief. They're simply burdened with too many agendas. Beyond everything mentioned above, the movie also has to serve up the ho-hum superhero theatrics while building the connective tissue between this movie and the MCU. And that's what happens when you shoehorn a character into a story that should have nothing to do with her. Really, they should have just left Captain Marvel out of the whole Avengers Endgame thing, just have her do her own thing, start a new chapter for the MCU. This shoehorning bullshit is just ridiculous to me. The saddest thing about Captain Marvel's failures is that the man-babies will place the blame on Larson, a wonderful actor who does fine with the crumbs she's given. Well, a lot of critics, more reputable ones, even the SJW ones, a lot of them female, have contrary sentiments, so you can shove that straight back up your asshole where you pulled that out from. Larson in particular has irked the man-babies. Her initiatives to diversify the press who have access to screening and interviews were perceived as an affront to white males. For the record, the Captain Marvel screening I was at in Canada was attended by overwhelmingly white press, so perhaps we're still waiting on some trickle-down effect with such initiatives. Now, will said initiatives also make it so the NBA and NFL are not overwhelmingly black? Now, I don't want to see that because they're just better at the sports, but hey, if we're trying to be fair, right? I'd like to see Larson get results with her efforts for inclusion, and I'd like to see her star in a better Captain Marvel movie in the future, and neither one of those things should determine the success or failure of the other. And I'd like to see her character killed off by Thanos, or have Rogue steal her powers, Rogue from the X-Men. Once they merge that and reboot the X-Men, just have Rogue steal her powers like she does in the comics. That's how Rogue can fly and do photon blasts and shit. Just have Rogue take over her role and eliminate Brie Larson from the story altogether. Anyway, this guy gave it a 2 out of 5, so a 4 out of 10. And if you couldn't tell, this dude is full on SJW. He is getting a boner at the idea of inclusion. He's probably on Twitter right now looking up feminists with pronouns in their descriptions and getting himself off to the pink-haired photos and posts about man babies. On Metacritic, this thing currently has a 65 out of 100, and let's just quickly take a look at some of the excerpts from a few of the women there. Because you know, the Mary Sue was claiming that all of the negative reviews were from men. They've changed it, obviously. Editor's note, at the time it was all men, is what they say. Bullshit. As soon as that article was up, I checked, and a few of the articles were from women, claiming that the movie sucked. But we already knew that everybody at the Mary Sue are morons, especially Rachel Leishman. Lindsay Barr of the Associated Press, I spent over 2 hours with Captain Marvel / Carol Danvers, and I still have no idea what her personality is. Sure, there's a lot more going on in Captain Marvel, but it's pretty egregious failing considering that the creative bigwigs at Marvel had 10 years and 20 films to work it out. Score of 63. Dana Stevens from Slate. Captain Marvel sometimes resembles the kind of low-budget sci-fi that might have played on kids' TV on a Saturday afternoon in the era when this movie is set. God damn, a low-budget sci-fi TV movie on a Saturday afternoon in the 90s. She gave it a 60. Barbara Vandenberg from Arizona Republic. For all its thematic and behind-the-scenes innovations, cinematically, Captain Marvel feels like a step backward for the MCU. Fresh off the heels of the all-or-nothing bombast of Avengers Infinity War, the righteous representation of Black Panther, and the giddy lunacy of Thor Ragnarok, Captain Marvel is a retreat into a bland formula. She gave it a 60. Let's do one more. Stephanie Zacharek from Time Magazine. By the time I got to the end of Captain Marvel, I heard the voice of my own inner superhero, Peggy Lee, whispering in my ear, "Is that all there is? The most heinous supervillain of all is boredom." 40 out of 100. God damn. Now, I'm just gonna give my thoughts real quick, because I've read a lot of these reviews just to get an idea of what the movie is like. A quick kind of one-liner to describe what is going on, or give you an idea of what is going on with these reviews, is that it feels like the movie was just woke enough to scare away anti-SJWs, but not woke enough to satisfy the SJWs. Which makes sense, because when the hell are they ever satisfied? Now, the movie was leaning towards satisfying them rather than the contrary, right? And the thing is, they're never satisfied. You can never please these people. So you basically alienate one fan base in order to please another one that are never pleased. You know what I mean? It's how stupid are you people? That, and as you can tell, the theme of the reviews is that the movie itself is boring. Now, we all know that she doesn't smile or hardly smiles in the movie, and this is a reflection of the female experience, but imagine watching just like a bitchy person throughout an entire 2-hour romp. I've read things that say like she's trying to impersonate Robert Downey Jr., but instead of coming across as a likable asshole, she just comes across as a bitch, because Robert Downey Jr. pulls it off so well. He has so much charisma. And I think Altiori talked about this too, where she was talking about how Jennifer Lawrence manages to pull off that likable asshole kind of persona in real life. And I've seen many of the, interviews and stuff where she shuts down the press. And I agree, it still comes across as likable because she actually has charisma. Brie Larson doesn't. And all the people that are trying to give her credit for her acting chops, that can't be great acting if you're attempting to be Robert Downey Jr. and failing at it. And for those who are going to say, oh, that's the male point of view, it was a woman who first said that she was impersonating Robert Downey Jr., but a terrible impersonation of it. And obviously there's another sentiment that's echoed throughout all of this, is that she somehow manages to be boring during the action scenes too, which is quite alarming in a superhero movie. She's also apparently like a stereotypical Mary Sue, like there's no clear-cut limitations to her abilities, which makes things very boring. It's basically Superman without the kryptonite, or like One Punch Man without the comedy or the satire. I mean, that's a satire, so it works. But when it's supposed to be like a serious thing, like, oh, this is a comic book character, strongest in the MCU, There's no challenge. And I even mentioned that in the last video before any of these reviews came out that was going to be a problem. And it's clearly a problem. If you read a lot of these reviews, they're like, there's not really any kind of sense of danger because she's designed to be able to handle anything. I don't know, this is just a few takeaways I had from reading a bunch of reviews from men and women alike. And we're just a couple of days away from seeing how this is going to perform for opening weekend at the box office. But if I were Disney and Marvel, I would be a little bit concerned based on what these reviews are saying. But it makes absolute sense why they waited so long to lift the review embargo. Holy shit. But what do you guys think? Let me know down in the comments below. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, leave a like and share this video with your friends, family, whoever would be interested in garbage like this. And subscribe, ring that notification bell so you can be alerted every time I post another one of these grilled chicken wraps. Thank you very much for watching, and I will see you guys next time.